I've talked a couple times about how the Final Fantasy XI minimalistic interface is actually one of my favorite aspects of the game, despite the fact that it is clunky, difficult to use, and downright miserable for new players. I love the way that it frames Vana'diel. In fact, I think I did a video about just that topic. I'll try to link in the description below and the card up above if you haven't watched that yet. Definitely do. I think it literally sets the stage for what Final Fantasy XI is and what it's trying to portray to the player. I say all that to say that this is coming from somebody who appreciates what Final Fantasy XI does well with this interface. It is also, in many ways, a total mess. And obviously, you know, almost 20 years old. Things have changed a little bit in the last 20 years of gaming. But none of that really matters. The most important part is that we're going to get a back-to-back double feature of the Brady Games strategy guide. So we're not quite done with all the jobs, but I suddenly was like flipping through this being like, what else do we have to go over in this book that we must, without a doubt, touch on before giving up on the Brady Games strategy guide for all time. And at the very beginning, I almost didn't even know this was here. There's a huge page or two on macros. And I was like, you know what, back in the day, this probably did help. I mean, online resources weren't great. There were a bunch of forums like ruled the day in the internet of the early to mid 2000s. There wasn't really the Wikipedia kind of concept that we come to know and love today. Eventually, FFXI evolved and grew, but early on, it was just kind of like, you know, talking to other players and using guides like this to understand what your options were in the game. There was also, you know, the official players guide that came with the game. It was much smaller, more condensed. I forget to what detail that went into. Obviously, it talked about macros, but this didn't do a bad job. I was just looking through here, and I'm not going to read through it, but like starting with the mastering interface, the funniest part is where this happens. There are game basics, which includes this section. Before this is an overview of all the cities, majestic cities of Vana'diel, to kind of give you some framework. After that, I believe, is the races. It talks about what quests and missions are, jobs, equipment, crafting. Literally, like, what are these concepts for a player that is totally unique? For a player that is, like, totally new to the MMO space, or maybe RPGs. Yeah, here are races, a page before that, talking about Elvon, Galka, Hume, Mithra, Tar, how to use this guide. And then immediately once they're like, these are the races, this is what a job is, these are the cities of Vana'diel, they're like, here's the interface and how to get around that. That's how critical they thought it was to enjoying Vana'diel and the Final Fantasy XI experience, that they, right on page 11, gave you a huge overview of how to interact with this game, because it kind of needed it. But this is awesome. Like, little Tartar looks so lost and confused exactly where you pop in when you start the game in Windows. And it lists all the interface options for the PlayStation 2 controller, shortcuts, and keyboard commands, which actually are kind of hysterical. I didn't know a lot of these because I wasn't really paying attention, but like, I knew Control R, Control T, Control H, Control A, maybe, but no, a lot of these, no clue. But the next page is what really grabbed me when I was like, just kind of glancing through this. This lists all the different battle commands that you can put into a chat window to engage with enemies and your surroundings. And it doesn't seem like a big deal, but I used these for 20 years. This is my core command list for interacting with Final Fantasy XI. I mean, / auto target, assist, attack, select target, target me, HP, MP, the hit percentage, MP point percentage, TP. This is amazing. This might not seem like the most exciting list of things ever, but these define how you can write macros. And, you know, if you just want to type it into a chat window, all that as well. But it literally, they describe what attacking and healing are. The attack command, and then heal. Heal is like half a page. What? How much detail? You know what? I was about to give this a bunch of crap, but I remember Hayden and Epic telling me a story about how when they started Final Fantasy XI, they assumed it was like every other Final Fantasy game to date. that healing was done through potions whenever you needed to, and other than that, it was just like occasionally you'd rest up to full in the Mog House. They were running back and forth to the Mog House, having no idea that healing was an option, which makes sense unless you kind of accidentally press it when you're early on. Then it goes into magic, range, shoot, use job ability, weapon skill, assist, search for players, view map, auto move. It's telling details of what each of these mean, which sounds crazy to me now, but I guess, you know, from somebody who's just entered the game, doesn't really even understand some of these concepts, this was probably invaluable. It's awesome. The funny part is they tell you about like target, switch target, me, before they tell you about macros. But I guess the idea is that you might want to just type that into a chat window to like engage in that action. And they're like, hang on, you might not want to type that every time. So then the next page, well, page 17 is macros. By the way, that was 11 to 16 is just commands of how to interact with the game. Insane. Macros, an easier way to do things. They describe attack macros, and they're all overly done. Next to this giant Gigas with, you know, a fusion skill chain getting attacked in this amazing shot. But, you know, Brady Games macros are always over the top. But honestly, I definitely took a lot from this to kind of convey the idea that macros could be multiple steps, not just something that has to do with the action itself. Like if I'm doing a weapon skill, I might want to equip something. Yeah, that all makes sense. But also the idea that you might want to say something to the party, interact with somebody, shout, I don't know. Like this, all of these are party, all members ready for skill chain in 3 seconds. Wait 3, party, call 2. First of all, love the call. Using shield break to start a skill chain, weapon skill, shield break. Like that whole concept was probably like, okay, yeah, like we've got multiple steps and I can link it all together in a single command. Now macros were not unique to Final Fantasy XI, and this was not the first game to come up with this concept. They were in a lot of MMOs. I don't know if they were in other style games. Let me know if there were other games out there where the concept of the macro was utilized outside of MMOs. I feel like it was a very MMO thing. But yeah, even just like ending a skill chain, the idea that you might want to do a weapon skill, but if you're in the party at the end of the skill chain and like add in little effects so that somebody could know when to magic burst, I was like, oh right, there's so much communication I need to do. This kind of set the foundation for what my experience might be in Vana'diel, what kind of things I would need to communicate and like plan out with my party members. And that sounds dumb and over the top, and you're like, dude, it's just a macro explanation page. But like seriously, looking through this, I was like, why would you need to tell somebody that you're, oh, maybe they wouldn't know that you're doing that. And it really does kind of set the stage. And then the last page goes into different types like magic macros, how to use a job ability and the magic in the same macro. I was like, oh my god, they just taught me how to use Divine Seal correctly. Although I never grouped those in the same one. I always had a separate Divine Seal macro. Let me know in the comments, what did you do? Did you have a Divine Seal magic Curaga macro? What if you want to do Divine Seal Cure 4? There's so many options. And then obviously utility macros like telling the party, what is my TP? What's my MP? I mean, this is the kind of stuff I was like, oh my gosh, this game is going to be amazing. Because I was reading this long before I started to play because I was downloading the game forever. But guys, I know that was kind of dumb. I wanted to share like how hilarious it is that there are 8 pages that honestly probably could be expanded upon even further that go into just using the interface and then how to sneak around it even faster with macros. Fantastic. Guys, hope you're enjoying the Final Fantasy XI official Brady Games strategy guide 2004 version revisits as much as I am. Let me know in the comments what you guys want to see next. If there's a particular part of this book you want to see more than anything else, I'll try to hit it up. Or just bring it to the Twitch streams at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Tuesdays and Thursdays. We stream Final Fantasy XI all the time. Some other games too, though, so definitely come by and bring your thoughts on the Brady Games guide. Or if there's another strategy guide out there that you were using for Final Fantasy XI, please let me know. That would be like the most amazing reveal of my life. I would love to hear that. Otherwise, guys, glad to see you here. Hope to see you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye. 14 feels a lot less personal than 11. The relationship in 14 feel artificial and lacking, where 11 forced it because of the difficulty and nature of the game, but establishes more meaningful relationships. Yeah, like honestly, this party is a great example. Like, we have worked through a bunch of deaths, challenges, restructures, syncing to different level ranges. Hang on.